I am the Philosophical Bachelor, and today we're going to actually embark on the Tao Te Ching. Chapter 1. The Tao that can be trodden is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Without a name, the Tao is the origin of heaven and earth. With a name, the Tao is the mother of all things. Therefore, always without desire, we see mystery. With desire, we see surfaces. While these two aspects of reality come from the same source of the Tao, but have different names, together they are a mystery, the mystery of mysteries, the gateway to all that is excellent. What is the Tao? Tao literally means path or road and is frequently translated as way. A way is a path people take to get somewhere. Yet Lao Tzu tells us that the way that people can take is not the way that will lead us to what is everlasting and vital. We get to a destination when we travel on a road, but that destination is not the everlasting and vital place that is the destination the Tao leads to. He also tells us that the Tao cannot be named, that is, cannot be adequately explained or described in words. Yet Lao Tzu is using words to speak about what he claims is indescribable, and so am I, in order to explain what he has said is ineffable. The Tao Te Ching is a poem of about 5,000 characters. It is not a philosophical treatise since Lao Tzu does not make sustained arguments or offer logical proofs. In fact, he refuses to make arguments, as such striving, according to him, are self-defeating. Indeed, throughout the text, he subverts the common understanding we have of how to live and conduct human affairs. He resorts to poetry because he is not appealing to our faculty of reason to comprehend what he is trying to convey. He is instead using the power of poetry to communicate with the spirit of his readers, to appeal to our intuition and not our rationale to understand what he is trying to say. Borrowing an imagery from Buddhist sutras, Lao Tzu's finger is pointing at the moon. Here, his words are his pointed finger. His words, like his finger, are not the moon, merely directions directing our attention towards the moon. He is making suggestions in order to provoke us to go beyond the surface level of existence, to plunge the depths, to unfold the mystery, but not as an exercise in egotism to conquer our ignorance and subdue nature. Instead, we need to leave such self-serving desires behind, even our desire to understand the Tao. We need to be innocent of such cravings and graspings because we cannot otherwise break out of the utilitarian mindset, which reduces everything to their functions, which can only engage with the superficial and cannot penetrate to the heart of things, where we are unable to serve others because we are instead trying to make ourselves their masters and make them our servants. To term it Tao is to simply term what in fact has no name, since the essence of Tao is inexpressible. It is the origin of everything. How do you describe that? Can any words express its profundity? Is a passer's language, but what human beings have in order to discuss things is language. Hence, we have to use language to talk of what actually is beyond the limits of language. When we do not try to capture it in words, we can understand it to be the mysterious power or force that made heaven and earth, that made the cosmos. Naming things is what we do so as to distinguish individual things within their multiplicity, as chapter 32 will tell us. Hence, we try to do the same with the Tao by naming it Tao. However, the Tao is not this thing, say a pencil, or that thing, say a bottle, but instead is that from which all things come. We can only penetrate to an understanding of it when we forget ourselves, even our desire to understand it, to shed all grasping and go beyond thought, words and names. Otherwise, we only understand what is on the surface, what is superficial, failing to penetrate to the true essence of things. For instance, when I desire to draw, I use a pencil. Superficially, a pencil is a tool that inscribes black lines on paper. I do not care about its history, the tree its wood come from, how the lead was mined and encased in the wood, and how it traveled oceans to get to me. All I care about is that it functions to give me black scrawls on paper. But there is more to things than just what they can do for me, than the role I assign them so as to fulfill my desires. My example is of a pencil and my desire to draw. But if we shift to the level of all things, the desires that I have to sublimate would then be all my desires, which is why we have to forget ourselves. If we can put away our desires, even our desire to know the Tao, what we can encounter then is the ultimate mystery. The Tao is beyond human understanding, beyond words, but is the source of everything. When we have no desires and intentions, we will be able to behold its excellence. Chapter 2. All under heaven knows the beauty of beauty because of ugliness, knows goodness because of badness. Thus existence and non-existence mutually birth each other. Difficulty and ease mutually develop each other. Long and short mutually give each other form. High and low mutually incline towards each other. Quietness and sound mutually harmonize with each other. Front and back mutually follow each other. Therefore, the wise person manages matter with non-action. He uses no words to teach. All things arise without declining to arise, exist without claiming ownership of existence, act without presuming results, succeed without dwelling on the success. Like a person who does not move into his dwelling, his accomplishments can also never leave him. Two important Taoist concepts are introduced in this chapter 2. Yin-Yang and Wu-Wei. The symbol of Taoism is the Tai Chi Tu, which symbolizes Yin and Yang. Yin is the feminine principle, while Yang is the masculine principle. Yin is the dark side, while Yang is the bright side. One cannot exist without the other. Without the Yin, there is no Yang, and without the Yang, there is no Yin. Without darkness, there is no light, and vice versa. The same goes for all dichotomies. As evocatively suggested in the Tai Chi symbol, the two halves swirl harmoniously, with each side containing a seed of the other side, capturing visually how the two halves mutually birth each other. The Yin-Yang concept is a radical break from the common understanding in philosophical and theological thought that there is an absolutely pure goodness, a goodness that is completely good, and an absolutely pure evil that is completely evil. Instead, in the Tai Chi conception, there is some badness even in the greatest goodness, and some goodness in the greatest badness, the two sides mutually needing their opposites in order to exist. At the level of the whole, this coexistence is not contradictory but harmonious. It also implies that there is no ultimate victory of one side over the other, since either side must invariably contain a seed of the other. If there are only beautiful things, they would not be considered beautiful, since the very concept of beauty requires something else for it to be beautiful in comparison to. If there are only beautiful things, there will be no beautiful things, since they will just be considered normal. What constitutes a good examination result is relative to what the other students get. If you scored 99% while the rest of the class scored 100, your results are not good. In fact, it is bad since it falls below the average. Because most people can walk, no one praises such an ability. They will, however, find the inability to walk lamentable. What does long mean if there is nothing shorter than that length? High and low, front and back, one without the other, will be like a one-sided physical object. It does not exist. Division into chapters and punctuations are not found in the original text. The ones we have are edits made by interpreters. The first part of the second chapter is about Yin and Yang, But the second part, which begins with therefore, seems then like a non sequitur. Or is it? Let us first consider them as independent phrases. It talks about what the wise person will do. Some translations use the word sage, some wise man, but I use wise person since the word ren in Chinese is not gendered, though it is usually taken to refer to men. Elsewhere in the Tao Te Ching, gendered terms such as fu are used, but when the context is not gender specific, such as when referring to the womb or the penis, I will endeavor to use a gender-neutral pronoun like person. For pronouns, I use a mix, if not in the translation, at least in my commentary. This already is an improvement from the 8 translations I used. According to Lao Tzu, the wise person acts without acting. The term he uses is wu wei. Wu wei is a core concept in Taoism. Word for word, it means non-action, but it does not refer to doing nothing or remaining still, though he does talk about both of these also. It does not mean not taking any actions whatsoever. Wu wei means that in whatever action taken, that it is taken effortlessly, naturally, without asserting oneself and without attachment to one's self-serving purpose. In Chinese, nature is 自然, meaning what comes from itself, conveying the idea of what a thing would spontaneously do if left to itself and not interfered with. It is not that nature is disordered, but its order arises spontaneously, naturally. Nature, simply by obeying its nature, develops an order, the order of nature. Here is how the second half of this chapter links with the first half. To understand wu wei, consider what is not wu wei, which is the way we regularly act. We act usually with intention. For instance, you set the alarm to ring at 6 a.m. because you intend to get to work at 8 a.m. Wu wei in this case will be to wake up whenever you just naturally wake up. Or say you found a wallet and returned it to its owner with the expectation of a reward. That is to act with intention, not wu wei. Wu wei will be to return the wallet with no expectations whatsoever. A critic may say that there is an intent still, the intent being to do what is morally right. This is why the term non-action is sometimes qualified with non-attachment or non-assertion in the various translations and explanations. The act of returning the wallet without expectations of reward or even of praise is not self-serving. The person acting wu wei is not attached to expectations of reward or praise, not asserting herself to demand reward or praise. She may get nothing from her act of returning the wallet, and may even incur a cost, even from mere inconvenience, when carrying out the act. Lao Tzu goes on to give us some instances of wu wei found in nature. Existent things do not ask to come into existence, or decline to come into existence. They simply arise. Consider a rock. It did not ask to exist as a rock, neither did it refuse to exist as a rock. It simply is. It does not claim existence as its right. If it is smashed into dust, it does not complain. It acts in accordance with its nature and the laws of nature. When thrown up, it falls back down. But if prevented from hitting the ground, say by being caught by a hand, it does not complain. If it does make it successfully to the ground, it also does not take pride in its success. Yet human beings are unlike that rock. Lao Tzu is suggesting that we act wu wei like the rock. Lao Tzu adds that the wise person does not teach with words. How can one teach without using language? She can do so through her actions so as to serve as an example or role model. If a parent tells a child with words to be tidy, yet is untidy herself, the teaching may prove ineffective. If instead the parent keeps things tidy, the child will learn by observation even if the parent does not tell her child to be tidy. So how does the wise person or sage teach, if not through words? By her acts, which are non-assertive, non-attached acts. What does act without presuming results mean? Say one loves to sing and has been putting in a lot of effort. Yet this person cannot presume that she will succeed. The Bhagavad Gita, another ancient text, though less ancient than the Tao Te Ching, has a similar lesson on selfless action. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, "You have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work. You should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. Perform work in this world, Arjuna, as a man established within himself, without selfish attachments and alike in success and defeat." We can do the work, but we cannot demand that just because we do the work, that we are thereby entitled to the fruits of the work. But if work does not come with its fruits, why then should we work? To me, what this means is that the work should be its own reward already. In my example, the singer should sing not because of potential fame, but simply because of the pleasure she gets from singing. Should she succeed, it should not make her arrogant or warp her personality. Because she does not become proud, nothing can rob or sour her success, since she cannot lose the pride which she never had in the first place. Just like how the wise person cannot lose her home if she never took possession of it to begin with. Tao is the capital W way, while De is capital V virtue. Jing means ancient text, sutra or classic. Hence, Tao Te Ching is the classic of the way and virtue. Chapter 1 is about the nature of the Tao, but midway in Chapter 2, it already talks about how a wise person should act, which is to act in the way of the Tao. To act in the way of the Tao is to act virtuously. Hence, the Tao Te Ching presents a metaphysics, which is the Tao, and from this metaphysics, or the nature of Tao, expands to describe how people should act in order to be in harmony with the Tao. Chapter 3. Do not highly esteem the worthy in order that people do not fight one another. Do not prize treasures highly so that people will not resort to theft. Do not let them see what excites desires so that their heart minds will not be disturbed, is the way a wise person will govern. He will keep their heart minds humble, but their stomachs full, their ambition weak, but their bones strong, so that they are unsophisticated and without longings, where even schemers will not dare to act. In this way, the wise person can rule with restraint and yet leave nothing ungoverned. A thread running throughout the Tao Te Ching is that people, if they can remain simple and be allowed to act in accordance with their nature without constraint, will be self-controlled, correcting and improving themselves. Governments need only wu-wei, acting non-assertively and non-attachedly, interfering with the people's lives as little as possible. Governing with a light regulatory hand will be enough governing. The state will be peaceful and stable. In Chapter 3, Lao Tzu offers some specific suggestions on how to keep the people on an even emotional keel. By not elevating too highly even those worthy of elevation, the people will not become envious. By not putting temptation in their way, the people will not steal. By keeping their passions in check, the people will not become psychologically disturbed. The wise ruler will satisfy their physiological needs for food and health, but temper their spirits so that they will be simple in their needs and have little wants, so as not to be led astray by their desires. If he can keep them that way, he does not have to impose much control, and yet the state can function. Each person will automatically self-correct and self-reform. It would be a veritable utopia. Lao Tzu would make more suggestions for state governance in subsequent chapters. Perhaps the feasibility of his political program can be assessed then in its totality, though modern readers may find his illiberalism grating and his idea to infantilize the people troubling. Nota bene. I translated sing as heart-mind. The word has come to mean heart today, both the physical organ and also the faculty of emotions and passions. But it also still means mind, as in consciousness, though that usage is less common. Mind is in fact more accurate since the heart is after all not the seat of emotions, but the mind. Chapter 4. Though the Tao is empty, its uses are inexhaustible. It is so deep that all things come from it, so profound that it dulls sharpness, unravels complications, dampers brightness, unites dust, while remaining tranquil. Who could have birthed it, since it seems to precede even God? The notion of emptiness, as the true nature of reality, is found in Taoist, Buddhist, and Hindu philosophy. Emptiness does not merely mean nothing or absence. Lao Tzu explains emptiness, Wu, using examples of bellows in chapter 5 and of wheel hubs, vessels, and rooms in chapter 11. These objects are useful not because of their walls, but the emptiness that those walls delimit. In this chapter 4, he refers to the emptiness of the Tao as the origin of the universe, as he will also do in chapter 42, where from the emptiness of the Tao came one, from one came two, from two came three, and from three came all things. Emptiness can also refer to the indefinite nature of the Tao, as in chapter 25, where the Tao is still and formless, tranquil as in this chapter. Though the Tao is empty in the sense of still, formless, and tranquil, from this stillness, formlessness, and tranquility comes all things. Within the emptiness of the Tao is boundless potentiality and creativity. The ultimate usefulness is to birth all things. The emptiness of the Tao is also where all things return ultimately, as he will tell us in chapter 16, after growing, flourishing, and finally dying. In this chapter, the sense of emptiness is as a force of moderation, the wu-wei that does not assert, that is effortless and yet get things done. The Tao, through the empty non-action of wu-wei, can blunt sharp tools, fix problems, moderate the light, even bringing together scattered dust to form something. This sense of emptiness is in opposition to fullness, of the effortlessness of wu-wei, contrasted with a great effort from trying hard. Lao Tzu's question, who could have birthed it since it seems to precede even God, is enigmatic. The Tao is uncreated, having always been there. It is and has always been just the way of the universe, even before there was a universe. As uncreated, it is that which creates, the mother of all things, as chapter 1 tells us. And in this question, perhaps even things such as God. The Tao is, however, not a thing, but more like a principle of the universe, an inescapable and immutable principle, ineffable to the point of being empty, like a background so subtle that it seems not to be there at all, but is nonetheless present. It permeates everything the way water can fill every available space, as chapter 8 suggests. A more correct and contemporary analogy would be gravitational or electromagnetic fields, which affect every physical object, ever present and yet invisible, invisible and yet undeniable since their effects are universal. Yet because they are so ever present and universal, they often go unnoticed, the way we do not notice the air around us even as we continuously breathe it, until it is contaminated or gone. Chapter 5. Just like how heaven and earth are not benevolent, treating all things like straw dogs, the wise person is not benevolent, treating the common people as straw dogs. The emptiness of the space between heaven and earth is comparable to a bellows, empty but not wrong. Moving it, more emerges. Much talk about their nature, however, counts for little. It is better to guard our core understanding. Nature neither loves nor hates people. If something in nature harms people, say thorny plants, it does so not out of malevolence. If something in nature benefits people, say spring water, It does so not out of benevolence. In Red Pine's collection of commentaries, Su Tze and Huan Nanzi explain that straw dogs are figurines used in ritual ceremony. They are painted and decorated, placed on the altar, but not because the worshippers love the straw dogs. After the ceremony, they are thrown out, but not because the worshippers hate them. Just like how nature is indifferent to the things in it, the wise person is also indifferent to the people. He is not partial to particular people just because of his emotional attachment to them, but remains impartial. This indifference leads to fairness, though we will see in chapter 38 that justice is already decadent, arising from a loss not just of the Tao, but of virtue and benevolence. Moving on to the second line comparing the emptiness of the cosmos to a bellows. Just as the bellows produces wind through its emptiness, the emptiness of the cosmos is productive. Their emptiness is what makes them, the bellows and the cosmos, useful. The emptiness of the cosmos is needed in order that things can be placed within it. Lao Tzu, however, cautions against overanalyzing this phenomena, admonishing us to instead pay attention to the basic core principles of the Tao. Thank you for listening to the Philosophical Bachelor, and we will continue next week.